Writing, if we are to hold powerful people to account, our investigation must censor the voices they tried to silence. That request came after two anonymous survivors filed letters to the court in Epstein's federal criminal case in Manhattan condemning the DOJ's request to unseal grand jury testimony and its handling of the files. One of the survivors wrote, quote, "I am not some pawn in your political warfare. Why not be completely transparent? Show us all the files with only the necessary redactions. Be done with it and allow us to heal." And now DOJ is also asking for grand jury exhibits to be unsealed in Epstein's and his accomplice Ghislaine Maxwell's cases. Joining us now, Gretchen Carlson, journalist and co-founder of Lift Our Voices. Gretchen, thank you very much for coming back to the show and for being here on set. I want you to listen to another Epstein survivor. This is Jess Michaels and what she said to our colleague Ari Melber on Thursday. Listen to this.
I have not heard the words Epstein survivor out of the White House ever. This is a very personal, painful, both physically, emotionally, mentally, intellectually painful experience to go through, to see the level of injustice. I believe what we're seeing is a normalization of the decriminalization of sexual harm.
And Gretchen, what she just said there, I'd love your reaction to her saying that what we are seeing is a normalization of the decriminalization of sexual harm.
Well, let me paint a picture for you here. They have been forgotten from the beginning. Back in 2006, that whole case gave a sweetheart deal to Epstein, and he continued to violate women and girls after that. Then he died in prison, and so they were not allowed to seek justice by actually having him go on trial. There was a short reprieve when Maxwell was actually convicted, but now that's being politicized. Now we have Donald Trump calling it a hoax, and now we have the idea that none of these survivors have been contacted to actually release the grand jury testimony, which, by the way, is illegal if they are not contacted to do so. And then you have Trump saying that he didn't want to hurt people. So, but the implication was not that he was talking about survivors with releasing the information. It was that maybe he would be hurting some of his friends in high places. I say all that to say that it sounds negative. However, we are in this moment today because we believe these survivors. In 2025, we live in a different cultural environment. We're not demanding that they come forward to tell their stories because we're questioning the validity of it. No, we believe them. The American public is demanding the accountability of the perpetrators. So we have both things working at the same time. We have the White House not paying attention to the survivors, and that's a negative. But we have the American public demanding information. 86% of the American public wants information. And that is a credit to the courage of these survivors for coming forward and telling their stories.
That's across the political spectrum. You know, survivors are used to being forgotten. Right, and that as a part of our system. These survivors, as you said, almost everyone is calling for some kind of justice for them. Justice looks different for every survivor. So talk a little bit about, as you know, these women who were girls when they were hurt and raped. What justice looks like for them? What is it? What are the things that, for the ones that you've talked, because I'm sure you've been in touch with them, we've had at least one on our show. What do they tell you about what justice looks like for them?
Well, first of all, it's being believed, right? When I came forward 9 years ago at Fox News, I thought I was all by myself. And I wanted vindication that I was telling the truth. And then thousands of people started reaching out to me, and I realized, oh my gosh, we all want the same thing, right? You just want to be believed. We're now a lot more along in progress in doing so. But the other thing is that they want to be able to own their own voices. And this is what I fight against now, are things like NDAs, because a lot of these women signed NDAs as young girls before they were actually recruited to come and work, right? They had no idea they were signing away what was eventually going to happen to them. And this happens all the time to regular people in the workplace as well. And then it happens and they realize they don't own their own voice. And I would say that of the thousands of people I've talked to, they say, when can I tell my story? When can I own my own voice? And if they've signed something like that, I unfortunately have to say never. I mean, the unbelievable fact is that I don't own my own story. And so I can't even tell you the details. Luckily, I can talk about this and help other people. But that's something that all survivors want, is to own their own story.
You know, multiple times President Trump has been asked the question, would you pardon Ghislaine Maxwell? Because she obviously wants a pardon. And he never categorically says no.
I know.
Right. That this is, it's still hanging out there. So what
he
do
says,
you,
I can do it.
Right. You know, I haven't thought about it, but I mean, I can do it. What do you make of the fact that President Trump still refuses to categorically rule out a pardon for a convicted sex trafficker, sex assaulter?
I think that that is the biggest slap in the face to the survivors of everything else that I listed. Because that is, to your point earlier, normalizing the fact that it doesn't matter what she did. The idea that that would even be on the table for consideration, that is going to cross all party lines. There will be an insurrection if that happens. It won't just be Democrats. It won't just be, it'll be MAGA. It'll be independents. It will be everybody, because we are at a place in the society right now where we know that child sex trafficking is a crime and that you should not be granted clemency or any release for doing that to young women.
He did release her from, well, I should say Ghislaine Maxwell was released from this maximum security prison to a Club Fed.
And that is very worrisome to me, because while Congress is on recess and they can't call these hearings and have these people come testify, and by the way, they should call the survivors to come and testify for those as well. But I'm worried that another shoe may drop here, where maybe from a political point of view, they will grant her a pardon before any of the rest of that can happen. But if I think the American public would rise up against that, because we are at a different place in 2025 than we were even just 9-10 years ago.
Lawyers for the Epstein survivors wrote a letter to the judge overseeing the possible unsealing of the jury material in Maxwell's case on this possible pardon. I'm going to read from this a little bit. Several victims have already died by suicide, drug overdose, or under tragic circumstances tied directly to the trauma caused by Epstein and Maxwell. The psychological toll of this abuse is ongoing. A pardon issued in silence or secrecy would reignite deep trauma, destabilize the already fragile healing process of many survivors, and could result in further irreparable harm, including loss of life. It would suggest to victims everywhere that powerful predators are once again above the law. That last line there, it would suggest to victims everywhere that powerful predators are once again above the law. Do you see it that way?
Of course. Yeah. And I would hope that there would be at least one advisor to President Trump that would be telling him what a grave error this would be. But see, we don't know what's in all this information, so we don't know what they may be protecting, right? And if that is more paramount to actually listening to the survivors and honoring them, that's the problem, which is why the Trump administration and the DOJ could release everything today, this morning, while you're on the air live. They could get this done right now, and they would satisfy their base, and they would satisfy the inquiry from millions of Americans who now want more information.
Gretchen Carlson, journalist and co-founder of Lift Our Voices, thank you so much for being on set with us this morning. Still ahead, a meeting between Donald Trump and Vladimir